Hey boys and girls, if you haven't already, soon you'll be going to get your bag of all of your things from our classroom. Some of you have your nap mats, your binders, some extra workbooks, but in that bag there will also be 2 gifts from me. The first one, or one of them, will be a giant bubble stick. Now I love playing with bubbles. Mark, my son, he loves them too. So I hope that you will be able to play with this outside and get some fresh air. Best part about it is you can blow some and then go pop them. That's how I like to play with bubbles. And then the second gift that I'm giving you is also a book. Y'all know how much I love to read, and I love when y'all read and you read to me. So this is a book that maybe you can read with your parents or your grandparents and just enjoy reading. The title of the story is The Biggest Apple Ever. Now, this is just going to be a book that we read for fun. And I wish that I could be sitting right in front of you reading it to you today, but this will have to do. So let's read The Biggest Apple Ever. And today we're just going to read for fun. I may ask you some questions as we go just to make sure you're listening. Once there were 2 mice who fell in love with the same apple pie. But you had to be there to see how it happened. On opening day at Mouseville School, the principal, Mr. Mouser, made an announcement. We will be learning about apples this fall. And to get things started, we will have a contest. Whoever brings in the biggest apple to his teacher will win a special prize. The judging will take place on Friday. Good luck to everyone. I have an apple tree in my backyard, said Penelope. I bet it has really big apples. There's an apple tree across from my house, said James. I'm going to climb it as soon as I get home. I don't have any apple trees, said Clayton, the house mouse. But I'm going to find Mr. Mousley the biggest apple ever. No, you're not, said his friend Desmond, the field mouse. I am. Oh, yeah, said Clayton. Yeah, said Desmond. All the way home on the school bus, Clayton and Desmond talked about the contest. Maybe I could grow an apple tree with really big apples, said Clayton. It takes too long, said Desmond. I heard Miss Mousley say 6 years. I'll think of something, said Clayton. So will I, said Desmond. Who are the main characters in our story? Or who are the characters, rather? They're all mice, aren't they? Each one of them is a mouse. When Clayton got off the bus, he sneaked back into town to see what Penelope and James were up to. Penelope had come down from her tree. She was carrying 2 tiny apples. James was still up in the tree across the street. He was picking very small apples. Clayton knew he had seen bigger ones at the market. When Desmond came by a little later, he realized the same thing. The next day at school, Penelope and James brought in their tiny apples. No one else had brought in anything. Miss Mousley cleared her throat. Class, we have a lot of work to start the year, but because we are learning about apples and having an apple contest, we will go to Barnaby's orchard this afternoon. An orchard is where they grow apples. I've been to one before and had fresh apple juice. It was really good. Everyone got excited. I'm going to find the winning apple, said Clayton. I'm going to find the winning apple, said Desmond. At the orchard, Miss Mousley pointed out the different kinds of apples. And then everyone disappeared into the trees, looking for the winner. Clayton walked down one row, craning his neck, and Desmond walked down another, craning his neck. And then Clayton saw what he thought was a really big apple. It was a little too high to reach, but he stretched for it. At that moment, Desmond saw the very same apple on the very same branch, and he stretched for it too. And they bumped heads and fell down. I think we should bring this apple in together, said Clayton. No one said we couldn't, said Desmond. But when they got back to the bus, James had an apple that was even bigger. And the apple was so big he could hardly carry it. Clayton and Desmond looked at each other. What would they do now? That night at dinner, Clayton explained the problem to his dad. Apples don't come in too many sizes. Do you think you'll find a bigger one? I don't know, said Clayton. Then maybe James will win the prize this time. And it's okay if he does. Over at Desmond's house, Uncle Vernon said exactly the same thing. But Clayton and Desmond were still determined. The next afternoon, they met at Barnaby's orchard. They picked 2 huge baskets of apples, but nothing they found was bigger than the apple that James had picked. You know, Clayton, I think Dad was right. This time James gets to win, but we've got all the apples. Why don't we bake a big apple pie? And Desmond laughed. Great. Let's bake the biggest apple pie ever, and we'll make it for our class. And Clayton nodded. And I think I know where we'll find a pie pan that's big enough. The following afternoon, Desmond arrived at Clayton's house with Uncle Vernon. Everything's packed up and ready, Clayton said. It's all in Dad's truck. But where are we going? Desmond asked. You'll find out, said Clayton. Dad drove with Clayton and Desmond beside him in the front seat. Uncle Vernon stayed in the back with the apples and other ingredients for the giant pie. And they came around a corner. Desmond gasped. Tony's Pizza. Of course, said Clayton. What could be better than a giant pizza pan? Mr. Tony greeted them at the door. Welcome, welcome. We are ready to begin. And so they got to work making the dough for the crust, kneading it and rolling it out half into a big circle and spreading it over the deep dish pan. Then everyone peeled and sliced the apples and mixed them together, the sugar and spices, and spread the rest of the dough on top. Wow, said Clayton. When they were finished, wow, wow, wow. An hour, said Mr. Tony. Give me an hour. The giant pan just fit into its huge oven. The next day was Friday. Who would have the largest apple? James, of course. And Mr. Mouser handed him the prize, a cheddar cheese apple. Mr. Mousley looked surprised. Clayton, Desmond, nothing from you? The two of them grinned, and at that same moment, the classroom door flew open, and in came Clayton's dad, Uncle Vernon, and Mr. Tony, struggling to carry the giant pie all by themselves. How wonderful, said Miss Mousley. That's the biggest apple pie ever. We made it for the whole class, said Clayton. All of us together, said Desmond. They shared a high five and everyone in the class had a very big slice. I wish so badly that we could all be sharing a giant apple pie together. Maybe you can enjoy an apple at your house. I love y'all and I hope you enjoy your gifts from me. It's just a little thing to tell you how much you mean to me and show you how much I love you. I'll see you again at our next story. Bye.